Oh, an already rating with a party of 22 from Navides. Nice.
All right, go ahead and send us live whenever then. Welcome, everyone, to the American Reach Mahjong League. We have a couple sets of A2 matches. I am Korak. I'm joined by Eric. How you doing, Eric?
Doing pretty good. We're wrapping up at the end of the year. I got off of my semester, and I'm looking forward to doing some more Mahjong commentary with the ARML team.
We have a bunch of stuff coming up, but first we have a match here where you'll see there are only three names on the right. Well, that's because there's a substitute here. We have Sylvian, who's Sylvie, who has helped us out. There was a surprise withdrawal from A2, so he's been in there the whole time. We also have Oliver, Aldwin, and Dustin here. Of course, Aldwin's sitting here at almost a minus 300, probably looking at demotion. Not completely done yet, but certainly in some trouble. The big fights, though, are, of course, going to be between Oliver and Dustin. Oliver is currently in the promotion zone towards A1, and Dustin is at plus 0.7. These are two players that have been in A1 before and got demoted.
Right, so we're going to see an interesting mix of play here. Sylvian, she's likely going to play a neutral, normal Mahjong game. We're going to see Dustin, who might be, Dustin might be playing somewhere in between because Dustin's in that awkward kind of plus minus 0 point where you could demote, but you could also promote. So it probably starts off the session playing normally and then adapts depending on the outcome of the first one or two games. We got Q, who could be a wild bull here, or could just play passively and let the others, fight it out. And then, of course, we have Oliver, who is in a pretty comfy position, but isn't quite guaranteed a promotion yet.
Sitting back and doing nothing doesn't really seem like his style. But you look at the rest of these players, and Oliver is generally known as a fairly defensive player, pretty solid overall. And you see the 24% win rates being a little more aggressive this season.
That definitely seems to be a case for a lot of players in A2, myself included. Lots of aggression. And up until maybe 3/4 of the way through the session, the cutoff line was basically one loss.
Well, at the end of session 4, I believe, there was a spot for the promotion line, which is around +4 overall. But we have a game starting here. Gives a pretty good starting end here. Hatsu pair, Adora, BB 2-pin, all of a sudden looks really good. On the right, pin fu type shapes, a little slow, but you see the shapes there. Maybe Peiko and lower pin. Across the way, pin fu there as well. Can accept Dora, possible Itsu and So, and on the left, similarly pin fu, possible 6-8 Sanshoku as well.
Right, at the moment, Dustin's hand still in Tushan 10. It would suck to get something like the 3/6 Mon and then draw the 2-pin and beyond a Con 7 Mon for Richie Dorman, but I think you'd still take that as dealer. The question is how early we want to take that Hatsupon, and I think right now is just fine.
Yeah, when you have a Dora, especially as dealer, I don't think you have to be very fancy about it. Just take the most direct path to Tenpai in that 2,900 points.
And we see a possible attempt to Guashiter wash this hand away with something cheap from the right, where Sylvie has called for what looks to be a Tanyao only, though it could potentially develop into a 3/4/5 Sanshoku.
Would take a bit of effort, but it's certainly possible. You do give up the Peiko doing it this way, but you also see a reaction to the Hatsu call for dealer. Ooh, and that's a nice little upgrade for Dustin as dealer. But you're still kind of looking for a pair.
Yeah, as Dustin, you ideally want to draw the 1 or the 3-pin first, though you wouldn't be too unhappy with the 2-pin putting in you a wide headless Ishanten.
Oh, 4. I think you probably take this. and will, and now headless Ishantim, you have a bad block. Still, not really a bad thing when you consider you're sitting at 2900. Now, you do have the problem that if you pair up Dora, ended up on that possible Arianman, you're going to have an overlap with the 4-5. But we have a Tempai on the right for Tanya only. Oh, and there's the 9-zo pair. Draws into it. We're going to have Tempai on 3-6.
Yeah, we saw an interesting decision from Dustin to cut the 1-3 pin instead of keeping the wider headless Ishanten, and it paid off instantly. So it's going to be 3-6 Mon versus 3-6 So, but here comes the 6 Mon.
Likely. I mean, it looks very dangerous against this pawn, but can you get away from it? No. And it's going to be a deal in for 2,900, and Dustin takes the early lead.
Yeah, the alternative of cutting the safe 5 So there leaves you on a really bad weight, and you may as well push when you have the hand ready.
Well, we're into East 1-1. Dealer has, well, maybe a 1-2-3 Sanchoku. I just don't like much in this hand, though. On the right, we have an East pair, possible distant Chanta, but you have a Dora, so I think it's just a call for the East and Dora. Across the way, Pinfu type shapes, but really not much else. Hard to see much value in this yet. Maybe you should shift later to Tanyao. On the left, though, that looks like a very good hand. I believe that's already Ishanten for Ricci, possibly Dora too.
Yeah, we're looking at an Ishanten on the 4-7 pin 3-6-0-5 So you're pretty much guaranteed a good shape there. And sorry, 9-man as well. Forgot that other pair. So yeah, very good fast hand for Q. And
Look at what Dustin's drawing. His hand is now all of a sudden looking very good.
yeah, we have a nice Ishanten on 1-4 Mon 8 So and West. Make a great Shavo even if you fill the Ryanman first. And we actually saw an interesting move from Q on the left, who keeps this 1 pin in hopes of possibly getting an Itsu upgrade.
Well, I think you just take the Tempai here. Oh no, going all out. Oh, and there's a con. And Dealer's hand all of a sudden could get very scary very quickly. Just the Ricci Hatsu to the rest of the table is already going to be the equivalent of a 3-Han hand. And this is going to be the Ricci. And look at this weight. The 8-So West, all are live. 4 left in the wall.
Yeah, and with a single Ura or an Ipatsu here, you're looking at a Mangan with 3 Han because of the food from the closed con of the Hatsu.
And think about what Q did a little bit ago. It may just be sitting in the standings, figuring Ricci Dora 1 just isn't going to do it. You can turn this into Honitsu or maybe Chinitsu, then you can really get it going. But instead, Dealer is the first Tempai.
That could very well be the case. There's a bit of shoving still going on. Q now has seen 2 of the 2-pin go by, so it's unlikely that the Itsu comes. Wonder if we're just going to see the next Tenpai taken.
Sumo.
Oh, but there's the Sha Sumo.
And that will guarantee a Mongon plus. No Aura, but there you see it, the Mongon. Plus 13,000, and Dustin's already at 45,000 and hasn't given up the first Dealer turn. We're still in East 1. Has a decent starting end here with the Chun pair, can accept Dora, maybe a 3-4-5 Sanchku along the way. On the right, we see a Dora there, possibly Peiko and Upper So. Across the way, a whole lot of Kanchan. 1, 2, 3. I guess one of those is Ryankon. Not quite as bad, but you're trying to figure out how to do anything with it. In the meantime, we see the dealer called Chun. And on the left, Pinfu type shapes, maybe an Itsu in pin.
Yeah, it's looking like Dustin, while he does have the speed opportunity with the Chun here, still needs to form a one more shape in the pair. Well, there's the pair. I mean, you still ideally are looking for something to replace the Kanchan, but first you need another group. 4-pin is twice gone, so it might be hard. Oh, but there's a Shosangen possibility.
Yeah, but very unlikely, especially given the 2 Haku that are already out. So that's actually a dead pair. The only reason you keep it here is in case you can pull in the 9-pin, which seems like if anyone draws it, it probably comes out.
Log pause on the 8-So here. I wonder if Dustin will read that and discard the 7-So.
Still be looking at the hand, is wondering about the pawn, might even consider the con, but ultimately passes on it. And draws a 9, so it doesn't really fit in there.
Yeah, it leaves you with the really awkward Champon, and the 8-so is dead. You're basically only waiting on the 6-so, and you already have the 2-so pair, so it's redundant. Toyman's hand has shaped up quite nicely, though. We see Oliver having made that shift to Tanyao, and with a callable 2 Shanten with a Dora.
The issue is you're in two Shanten in the middle of row 2, and your Mon shapes are deceptively not as good as they seem.
No, yeah, even though you have the connected 6-6-7-7. Turns down the 4th pair there, wants to keep the Dora for sure. I might have considered something like
Bit of a
2 Mon.
backfire there for Dustin. Decides to throw the 5 back, really buying everything on expecting that 9 pin to come out. And surprisingly, we haven't seen any of them.
Yeah, they just happen to be buried deep in the wall this time. Well, there's a nice 6 Mon draw on the left. Not entirely. I guess Q is trying to play semi-defensively here and passes up the Ishanten.
Whole lot of hands that are very scary, but not quite there yet. That's a little nice draw there for Q. Pulls in and just throws the 7-so back. Seems to have decided the shapes are locked in at this point.
Yeah,
Really wants that Ipeco.
Yeah, we saw Q discard a 2-3-4 pin, so it's likely just a fold, aiming for some safe K10. Unfortunately, that backfires immediately.
Well, when you throw the Dora, that doesn't look like a safe play, and it will get called on the right. There is no Yaku, though. That is a call most likely for K10. Although, given where the draws are, you would get the high tag there for Sylvia on the right. And there's our Ricci from Q on the left. Ricci pin Futano on 5-8 pin.
And doesn't look like a terrible weight given what's out. But doesn't draw the Ipatsu.
Meanwhile, Dustin sitting here dreaming of the Sanshoku Dora, but with that 2-so opponent looks like, oh, there's the Sumo, but there's no Yaku, so you can't take it.
Oh, 1 Mon here is fine. Wow, an 8-so. I would have just followed
Yeah,
Dustin's
I
1
definitely would
Mon.
have followed the dealer here, but no damage done. 3 players Tempai, and Dustin successfully defends his dealer turn again. Oh, wow. Even without seeing the shapes, you see 2 Dora in there and almost all Tanya tiles. And your eyes just start getting big.
There
On
is
the
going to be
right,
some... I was just going to say, the West is going to give Dustin some problems here, because it is Tanyao. Oh, that really kind of seals things in, though.
yeah, even
And
potentially 4-5-6 Sanchiku down the line. You could even end up using the 1-2-3 if it ends up Sanchiku, but that doesn't look likely now. This dealer hand's very scary. On the right, Pinfu type shape feels much slower. Across the way, though, we see the West has been called, also has a Dora. Shapes are decent, not great, a little deceptive because you think it's more advanced. You see that many discards around the middle of the hand, middle tiles with the 7-so and 8 pin that early. On the left, whole bunch of pairs, but the hand's not really going towards Shitoitsu. It just feels a long way away. Oh, and that 4 pin is an amazing draw for Oliver.
yeah, Oliver and Ishanten now, but so is Dustin, who has a Ranman Ishanten for Tanya. Could even call the 4-so.
Well, now we have a Tempai across the way on the 1-4-7. It would just be the West and 1 Dora, so 2,000, but it's actually 3,900 given all that's sitting in the middle of the pond right now. And ooh, that one just feels very loose.
Yeah, that should just come out here. Even if you're scared of that hand.
Well, instead decides not to take the perfect Ishanta and may also be greeting for Itsu.
Boom.
One holds the safe tile for now. And there's our call, but that doesn't actually speed the hand up. It does give more Ukeire, though.
Yeah, and it does promote
Boom.
Dustin to a guaranteed command gun, but now the one pin comes out because Sylvie sees that the dealer has a scary hand and it deals in for the Shadora 1 plus the repeats.
Yeah, a decent number of points there, but we're now out of East 1. And wow, look at that starting hand. The Onko of Hatsu, Adora,
Boom.
great shapes everywhere. The problem is, as this hand develops the way you would expect, you may end up having to cut the 8 Mon, with 7 Mon being your pair. On the right, we have a Chun Pon now, looking for more value, but probably just going to be the Chun. There's a very distant Itsu. I guess you could sell it for the Honitsu, but that doesn't really seem like Oliver's style. Across the way, Pinfu looking pretty decent. Need to connect something to get rid of some of those floaters with the 1-so, 9-so, and Haku, but the 4-pin will do it. Possibly Peiko now. And on the left, that is a beautiful shape in pin, but the rest of it leaves a little bit to be desired.
Yeah, currently the hand is Ishanten. If you see the 2 pins as the pair, we have 1, 2, 3, 3, 4, 5, and then the pair of 2 pins. Now with this con, you have incentive to take the bad weight Ricci only.
But there is a good weight Tempai on the right. Will just be the Chun with the extra Fu from the con. Doesn't hit the Condora. Could potentially hit the Condora because now you can win on that 7.
Oh, this makes things a little spicier.
I think you just cut the 2-3. Yeah. Oh, cuts the 3-3. Going to be very hard to use this. You will need the 8 and 9. Okay, well, now we have Tempai across the way. This is Ricci, possible Hatsu, and it's going to be presumably a chase. You could Dama, but I think I just Ricci here, and that's going to be the play. Ricci, Hatsu, Dora 2, potentially 3. And of course, those 2 Oradora chances are huge.
And yeah, Ricci Hatsu Dora 4 with the new Dora. Or sorry, it's
right,
a guaranteed Dora 5.
Yes, because either side's going to be that way. Oh, but I think the 4-man may come out here. Unless there is a fold, probably cutting 2-pin. Oh, no, throws the 8-so. Manages to escape the damage. But now we have to go count the Dora. There is 1 8-mon left, I believe, and that's it for dealer. For the 4-so, there is 1 of those left, and there is 1 Haku left. So it's a 1 versus 2. Meanwhile, Oliver seems to have basically been folding out.
Yeah, there was a fair deal of pushing up to that point, but now some kind of Moashi with the 6-so pair drop.
And Dust will be very happy to see that 3-pin and can now fold out safely. Might even be able to get back into Tempai now in Ishun 10.
Oh, everyone's final draws now.
Nope, just 2 players Tempai. Dustin would have been able to call that for Tempai, but as the last draw, you can't do that. So we have another East 2. Bunch of dealer repeats here. The dealer has a few pairs, floating Dora. You're hedging the idea of Chitoitsu, but I think you just play it straightforward and see what happens. On the right, Pinfu type hand, similarly 3 pairs, not quite as good. You also have a Dora, so it feels like a Tanyao hand. Across the way, Pinfu type hand, but a long way away. Outside of those Mon shapes, everything's kind of ugly. And on the left, similarly a Pinfu type hand. You really want that 3-so to pull on that Dora, turn this into Ricci Pinfu Dora.
Yeah, so Sylveon's hand here might mess with the others. Has pairs of a lot of key middle tiles like we see. 2 players want the 7-so, including Ash who wants it twice over, and then just now with the 5 and 6 pin shutting down a lot of the middle Pinzu might slow down the other players a little bit, enough for this Chitoi to get into Tempai, looking for a Chitoi Dora 2, either on the one Sotanki or the east. Well, I guess not the east Tanki now that it's twice cut. So you could always go for the Hellweight. I did that a couple times this season and it paid off quite well.
Well, that's the thing about that hell weight is no one thinks you're ever waiting on it. But the other problem is that one show is going to be very hard to get. There's now only one left in the wall. I can't see Dustin ever cutting from it.
So it looks like Sylvie is still opting to keep that 6, so perhaps dreaming of shifting towards a normal hand on an 8 so draw because you get the 4-7 pin Ukede like that, or even a Sananko chance.
Now I see a possible Tanya shift across the way by Q. Could also go for the Itsu, which was always the dream with this hand, but has some other options for value now.
And Dustin over here, still stuck in 2 Shunten, has the Dora pair. Has picked up a 3rd pair now, but goes right out. It's a pretty safe tile to hold on to for later.
Sylvie just kind of stuck in Ishunt and Hell, which will definitely happen on Chitoy.
Yep, that's the classic Chitoy experience. Shortcut to Hanuman or a shortcut to No 10. So I imagine we might even see some falling at this stage in the hand to go for a K10.
Well, no, Q now has Yaku. I mean, it's one of those where it's 1,000 until you look at the middle and see it's actually a 3,300 point hand. And you don't feel bad about winning that. And sure, you'd love the closed win, but you take what you can get.
Absolutely.
I just cut nine mon here. I haven't completely given up the way things are. I mean, there's still a distant Chitoy. You want the Peiko, and you don't want to be throwing the 4 mon unless you have to, because those are safe tiles against everyone except Oliver here.
Sylvie thinks a little bit there because the 6-0 loses you the 5-8, so if you want to call for K10, but you don't want to drop the turn either, so a compromise is made.
And that looks like mostly a fold there from Oliver on the right. There was a path to Chitoy, but that was probably the best way to finish that hand. You could still get into Tanya if you see the 4 pin come out, but we see 3 of those, and they're pretty locked up right now. Oh, and there is our Chitoy Tempai for dealer. I think you just Dama at this point.
Yeah,
you could
Dama,
Ricci just figuring nothing is going to come out. But I feel there's a decent incentive for people to play for K10, and the Tuso is making that one look actually pretty cheap on this board, just not on your bond. It looks terrible against you.
Yeah, at this point in the hand, it kind of feels like if all those Tuso are out, it's probably less likely to be in the wall, so you're expecting to have to win off of someone else's tile, and it just feels like you're tossing the stick in the middle for someone else to grab in a later hand.
Well, you do have the advantage that if it scares everyone off and you get Tempai payments, you may probably got more. Does manage to chase Aldwin off, so the net result is a positive from the Ricci.
Yeah. Q does take an interesting call there at the end. Maybe misreading the number of turns left shifts the high to over 1 spot by having the safe tile, but doesn't end up making a difference.
This pot is huge, and Sylvia has a great hand. Could just call for Tempai here if the 3 pin or 8 pin comes out. Decides to pass on the Daiminkan. On the right, great starting hand there as well. Ricci, Pinfu, possibly Peiko. Plenty of upgrades for value, not even potentially 4, 5, 6 Anshiku. Across the way, double Chun, double South. South is not Yakuai yet, but I think you just go Honitsu with this. In the meantime, though, we have a Ricci on the right. That is Ricci, Dora 2, possible Tanyao on the 6-9.
Yeah, this is a nasty early Ricci. Very little information, and it's not even just a valuable hand. There's all those sticks up for grabs in the middle.
Dustin was looking for a path towards Honitsu, but may just be forced out of it, especially with that floating Dora you now have in hand. Question is, how aggressive is Sylvie going to be with this?
I think you probably have the right to be very aggressive here, given how early that Ricci is and the fact that you're Yishanten, but it never feels great to be shoving. Yeah, of course. Fortunately, 2 of the 2 pin are out already.
Well,
Well, there you
Tempai
go.
now, you might as well just hit the button, I think.
リーチ
There are
Yeah.
upgrades, but I mean, two people are pretty clearly folding at this point.
This live is this weight is completely live in the wall right now.
Yeah, not really what you'd expect with a 3-8 Champon, but all four on the wall. Meanwhile, on the right, actually very good weight there as well. 2 9s and 3 6s. The 6, of course, guaranteeing Mongon even on Roan.
Yeah, so we're looking at a very marginal difference of 4 tiles versus 5 tiles. It's pretty much anyone's game.
Oh, that 8. If I draw that 8, I'm sweating a bit because it feels pretty scary about for what we've seen in that hand, and it is in the danger zone.
Oh, yeah, just a 7 pin here
Sumo.
since we know that.
Oh,
And
there's the
tough one.
sumo. Ricci, sumo, Tanyao, Dora 2. Aura 3, Baimon.
An
And
explosive
that
entry into your own
makes up
dealership.
for all those wins by Dustin. Oliver jumps into the lead, and Sylvie takes a big hit there, dropping all the way down to 14,400. But we're still in East round. There have been so many repeats here. It's only East 3. Could easily be South 2 or South 3 at this point. Here's a pretty good starting hand here. Potential 5, 6, 7 Sanshoku. Potentially Peiko, Tanya, all sorts of options. On the right, definitely feels like a Pinfu and not that far off. Ricci, Pinfu, Dora, most likely. Across the way, a Chun pair, decent shapes elsewhere. You also have a Dora, but you're going to get kind of hard stuck needing that 7 Mon unless you pair up the Dora. And finally, on the left, a few pairs. Not great shapes. You have the overlap needing the 3 Mon twice. You have the Ryoncon. You have too many pairs. Man, just going Cheetoy with it.
Dustin taking a short break to make a cameo in the chat. We feel for you. Yeah, you never expect the Baimon until it hits. Alright, we have the Chun pawn, Sanmen-chan, Pen-chan, 1 away. That 7 Mon's going to be difficult to get because you do have the Dora, but that means that the indicator is once gone already.
リーチ
And
Oh,
now
there's
it's
a Ricci on the right. This is a Ricci Ipeco Dora.
looks like there's 2 left in the wall.
Oh, well, now that's one of them, and that's kind of the worst scenario for Q there because now that 7 just isn't going to come out. There's incentive to push. This is actually Cheetoy Ishan, even having cut the 1 so pair.
Oh, there we see Tenpai for Q. Oh, sorry, for Dustin.
For Dustin now needing that 7 Mon. On the right, it needs that 7 pin. There's only 1 left. And now just folding out. Oliver says, I got the buy mod. I'm not going to press my luck. But now there is
No.
potential Suji, and it does come out. Ricci Ipeco Dora. No aura, but a 5200 direct hit, and Q definitely needed that, and we'll have a dealer turn now. Decent shapes, not great. One's obviously the So's pretty good, but other than that, basically floaters. You'd have the 4-6. Could be a Kanchan itself, or could end up being 2 blocks, depending how draws come. On the right, feels like a Pinfu type hand. If you can draw the 6 Mon, you'd have the Sun Menchan. Of course, you can always accept the 9 Mon Dora directly. Across the way, that definitely feels like Konitsu, maybe an Itsu as well. Now you have a pair up of other stuff, so the question is how greedy do you want to be with that hand? And on the left, looks like just a Pinfu type hand. You're trying to find some value. It can be very hard with shapes like that.
Yeah, on the first turn, we saw Sylvie pass that north pawn. So at that point, I thought it was a little less likely that she would go for the Honitsu. And then when the second north was passed, it felt like this is just going to go for Pinfu Ipeco now. And the Dora is going to shoot out as well. It's a little bit hard to use the lack of Manzu, so all the other players seem like they could pretty reasonably fit it in. Well,
He's
that's a nice...
definitely trying to turn this into an Itsu, but the tiles just aren't coming for it.
Yeah, Q has
Now
drawn
you
into
do have the
Ishan.
Ishan 10. Yeah, we have 2 Ishuntens on the table now.
Now a
Ooh,
better
and now you can get that 4, 5, 6 Ishunten. I like that a lot more.
リーチ
You're trying to figure out a way to get Sanshigo with your cube, but the Richi across the way, that is Richi, Pinfu, possible Itsu on 3-so, 6-so. The 3-so is 3 out, and the 6-so is 2 out. So 3 left in the wall total, 2 on the expensive end for Sylvie. And Q just kind of folding out. This is something Q's been doing, even sitting at minus 287. I might be a little more aggressive, but it's definitely been just willing to fold out and play the game much more textbook.
And there go all the 6-os drawn into session. Now there's only one 3-so left, so it's looking at a Ricci Pinfu unless someone decides to push the 6-o for some reason.
Well, there's an incentive to get it pushed right now, but we'll just throw the 4-so that's safe instead.
And
I could
now
absolutely
Tenpai.
see Justin pushing the 6-0 or the 6-pin there. We have a dealer Ricci for Ricci Pinfu. Yeah, just Ricci Pinfu. It's for the 6-9, which similarly isn't very good either, because the 9s are completely locked up, and I think we already established the 6s are gone too.
Yeah, so it's 1 versus 0 here. And with the way the other two players have been playing, it doesn't look like we're going to see a double run anytime.
No, and there's not really an incentive to push either. You have 2 players who are way ahead of the others at this table. Let 3rd and 4th fight it out amongst themselves. But we're just going to have the 2 players Tenpai.
All right, Q manages to hold on to the dealership. So we go into East 4, repeat 1. 2 Ricci sticks
Yeah,
in
but
the
those
middle.
two Ricci sticks in the middle. You're looking for an excuse, and oh my goodness. This is one where
Yeah.
Q just looks at it and goes, how do I call?
Yeah, never
That's
mind the
definitely
Ricci
what I'm
sticks.
thinking when I see that. Yeah. Tanya Dora 3 potentially with the 2 Ricci sticks. Nice little 14,300 if you can get it, but you may end up having to stay closed based on that penchant unless you can get rid of it later. On the right, Pinfu type hand. If you draw the 3-mon, helps immensely. Across the way, Hatsu pair, and you might consider going for more value in so, but there's not really reason to. You just want this hand done with. And on the left, I mean, the shapes are there, but the value isn't. Then the blocks aren't particularly pretty. You have effectively 2 Penchon and then a very hard to use 2 4-so in the Kanchan. Dealer now Ishunten.
And now we can see, if you draw something like a 4-mon, a much easier shift to Tanyo.
Yeah, it doesn't take the Fulukere looking for ways to maneuver this hand.
Yeah, upon drawing the 4-mon, you're going to naturally cut the penchant. You'll still be Ishanten, but if you manage to chi the 4-7-so, then you'll be Ishanten for an open Tanyo Dora 3.
Or just pair it up directly. Problem is the Champon 3-mon 6-so isn't particularly great if you end up on that Tenpai. Although it's getting better as the Montiles are kind of flowing out from everyone at this point.
Yeah, and immediately after cutting that penchant, the second 7-mon came out, so I doubt Q's regretting that choice. 2 Wests out
Ooh, that
already.
West. Yeah, they're already gods, so that doesn't really help you. I think Sylvie's just selling out on the Honitsu here. Having cut so many mid Montiles. Didn't want to go out to Zuke. Yeah, that's definitely the direction it's going. And that 3-so on the left will help immensely. We have a dealer Tenpai. I imagine you will reach. He instead won't. Just takes the Dama here looking for a whole bunch of upgrades which are still out there.
Yeah, some people were advocating for the 3-mon pawn in the hand, which I kind of agree with. Because you do risk the Furuten on the 4-7-6-9 so wait after
Yeah,
dropping
I
the 9
probably
so,
would have
but
called that too, but I can certainly see passing it. And now does the one turn delay Ricci thing and is looking for the 6-0 and 3-mon. The 3-mon is actually dead. The 6-0 is also dead.
yeah, that's a shame.
Oh, and that's what you were looking for.
Yeah, I'm of the mind that if you're gonna wait around looking for upgrades, just wait until you get the upgrade.
Right.
Uh,
Even that 8-0 would have been an upgrade to Tanyawi Peiko Dora 3.
oh, we have a 2-Shanten across the way, but that would require pushing the 6-0 or the 3-0, depending on what filled first, and neither of them seem very
No, I
comfy
think
now.
you call this and cut the Haku. The question is, if you get to Tempai, do you push the 6? No, you're sitting there staring at 3,300 in the middle with in deep fourth. You're awfully tempted to.
Now that tone gets pushed in, a little bit of hesitation, it's only once cut.
Even the 9-so doesn't look very good against this pawn. But what else are you going to throw? The 1-so is Sotagawa, but that'd be about your only other choice.
Yeah, and the 9-so is one chance, so Sylvie decides to try for it. Still pushing a little bit here. Not much choice. Final 2 draws.
Let's see a pawn to deny dealer another draw. Doesn't take it though. And Q will get at least 3,000 from this hand. Not really what you're looking for when you have that kind of starting hand, but you'll take it, especially if you get a hand like this where you can just call the tune and go Honitsu or just play directly and pick up the 3,600 in the middle. On the right, we have an East pair, decent shapes. You do have also a White Dragon pair, and now you have a connection in upper so. So I believe this is very much a call and go hand now. Across the way, you have a Hatsu pair and possible 2-3-4 Sanchoku. And on the left, feels like a Pinfu hand, not that far away, also has potential Ipeco in pin.
Dustin makes that draw of the 6-mon immediately into Shanten, now an E-Shanten, and able to get a Yaku on any of the sides there.
Well, that 2 pin's a huge draw there for Q. Ishanten now could potentially also add Itsu to all this. On the right, though, we see the open for what will potentially be 1 or 2 Han, depending on what comes out. Now we have a Tempai on the left. We'll just Dama this, figuring that this 9-so could come right out.
That
Just
being
a
said,
1,000 win, but it's 46 overall.
I still think that the Ricci there is fine, especially since your point rival still isn't too terribly far from you. But a
Well, I
respectable
don't think
win.
it surprised anyone that I would advocate Ricci there.
Yeah, this early. I think if you're getting towards the second row, then the Dama makes a lot more sense. But I know there's a lot of very conservative players here who just want to maximize the win rate on a hand like that with all the sticks there. It's just the
Well,
classic Dama Pinfu, annoy Korak and Eric.
yes, well, seeing it on stream. Uh, anyway, we have dealer here with 4 pairs. Probably go Chitoy with this hand. The shapes elsewhere aren't great. Maybe you draw a 7 pin, you go Ipeco with a regular hand. That's about it. On the right, Pinfu type shapes. You have potential Itsu in so, but unlikely. Across the way, also a potential Pinfu. And now you have a nice little shape in Mon with the 4, 5, 6, 6, 7 and similarly decent shapes elsewhere. If you draw the 3 pin, you're immediately Tempai Farichi Pinfu. On the left, we have possible 6, 7, 8, or 7, 8, 9 Sanjuku, and definitely a Pinfu hand there.
Oh, nice draw of the West over there. Be kind of hard pressed to give up the nice Ryanman and the other 2 suits just to go for a Honitsu, since it's likely going to be a Bakuhan or Honitsu Tora 1 that opens up.
You can still keep this close. I might have even cut 2-so instead. because I don't want to win this as it is. I'd want to be able to use the Dora, but I can certainly see cutting the 9-so here. You still keep the wider shapes, but Richinomi isn't what you want when you're sitting with 13-9.
And in this case, because you have the pair of the 2-so, you can still accept the 7-so and drop the 6-so at that point. It feels a little more awkward, but it's basically the same.
Yeah,
So
and
now,
there's the 1-so we've been asking for. I think you definitely cut the 2 here. And now dealer draws it and is not going for the Chitoitsu, probably keeping dreams of 6-8 Sanshoku open. And on the left, also a Shunten, trying to figure out which shape to keep. I think I would have cut the 5-4-so, but instead cuts the 5-6. And now we have a Pinfu Dama across the way, possible Ipeco. This is another back-to-back Dama here, but this one at least potentially get to 2,000.
and this one makes a lot more sense. It's later in the hand, you're waiting on 2 middle tiles, and
You already see 2 of them discarded. You figure people also
it's
have a
true.
bunch in their hands.
At this point, it's not terribly dangerous to Ricci either, just because you see 3 of the Dora out. But we're going to take the Pinfu Ipe.
2,000 will extend the lead. That is a direct hit, so ends up being effectively a net of 4,000. And move to South 2. Sylvie is dealer here. Few pairs, but I think this is just a regular Pinfu type hand. You'd love to get the 2-3-4 Sanshku, but it's going to take a lot of work to get there. On the right, I think you just go Kokushi, don't you? You hedge towards the Honitsu and Pin, but you're definitely aiming for Kokushi. Across the way, Pinfu Taipan, you have a bunch of floaters and floating honors to get rid of. Especially now, you'd be tempted by Kokushi, and you count the number of terminals and honors again and say, oh wait, not quite. On the left, Pinfu Taipan there as well, but no obvious value. Maybe you turn into 1-2-3 Sanshku with this draw now, but that's about it.
We've seen 2 effective draws on the right that puts Oliver's hand into 3 Shanten, and this is a hand that you're happy even if it doesn't work out because you have a lot of defensive options with the honors left over.
If you're Sylvie, you're kind of looking for an excuse to cut the north, and you feel a bit sad when you see that having cut the 6-mon earlier. We'll just do a shift here. We do see the sellout on the right for Oliver. Definitely just going Kokushi at this point. Has given up the Honitsu, and of course now the Penchun fills, because that's always how it works. Possible upgrade to an Ipeco, maybe Tanyao for Sylvie, but still distance away. Really wants to draw that 4-so. Would really help this hand.
Oh, and now 9-so goes out. I'm looking to see if there's any honor that
Probably
was
just
four times
folding at
cut.
this point, but we have a Tempai on the left, a pretty bad one, honestly. A Ricci Pinfu with a 3-6, but you can see all those in the middle. 4 discarded, 1 in the hand. Surprisingly, there's only 1 in anyone else's hand, so 2 still left in the wall. And I think what happened on the right was Oliver's internal clock just ran out. That, okay, time to stop throwing those mid tiles and give up. In the meantime, Sylvie has to defend the dealer turn here. This is the last dealer turn, and you're what? More than 15,000, exactly 15,000 away from third place.
Yeah, and a
Doesn't call
little
for the
more
K10
past that.
here. Wants a little more value, some way to actually finish this hand.
A little more past that will give you that 30k, which would be nice, but I think I would have been happy to just take the K10 here as well. It does feel like a risk, but even if you get Yaku, you're going to take a risk too.
This 2-pin looks so bad, but I think you just have to push it at this point.
Interesting Chi on the right.
Basically keeping the option open to play for K10, but not going to push very hard for it. So I haven't seen either of those 3-6 left. I believe it's one of each. And there's your Tempai. That will be pawned. And actually, we didn't get Ginbu Tuso, but they're locked up in the hand.
Yeah, all those tiles are gone, unfortunately. Those 3-6 mon are still there.
Oh,
There it is.
last draw. It's not Haite, one left, but that was the last draw on the left for Dustin. And it's an Uradora, and it's now back around 40,000. We have a very close fight now brewing between first and second place. And now we have Oliver is dealer here. Man, you're just looking for a way to go Jun-chan until you realize that's a Ryanman in, including Dora in So. And then you're actually a little sad. At least I would be looking at this hand. On the right, few pairs. You have two Dora. Similarly, you're looking for an excuse to call, but I don't think it's there. I don't think there's a possible way to call that hand unless you pair up the Chun. Across the way, 1-2, double Penchon's never great. I mean, it's going to be a Pinfu if it comes together. It just doesn't look very likely to come together. On the left, though, we have a Hatsu pair. She could call for that, but just given the situation Sylvie's in, you almost have to go Bonitsu.
Yeah, so Oliver is in Yishanten now. Has a decision between the 1-2-2 pin or the 1-1-2 mon. Goes for the Pinzu. It's an interesting point in the hand. I might have even decided to keep the mon. You have a discards 7 mon, 8 so 2 mon that make it look like you're heavy in Pinzu. So if you end up waiting there, it's not as good as the 1 mon. Though you're probably going to want to take the Shampoo no matter what if you draw the 2-5 so first.
No, for sure. Now there's one of them. And ooh.
Yeah. Now
Given the
this is
1
getting
month, given the
interesting.
1 month's dead, that's what you have to cut. Plus, you have some other shifting options if you draw, say, 3 pin. But you're looking at that pawn and thinking, what could have been with the 8-9, the 1-2, and the 7-8?
All's on that 8 so.
Yeah, it's one of those. Does it fit into the shapes? The answer is not really. You don't feel good having 3 honors left this late in the hand and a call, but the shapes just aren't there even now.
Well, that helps out a little bit. All right, nice 3-pin draw over to the right. Still a bit away, but you can start calling.
Oh, that 3 is what Sylvie needed more than anything. Still Ishanten, but a very wide one now. Now you're going to see a call for Tanya, Dora 2 on the right for Q. Oh, that 6 is Tempai.
Yeah, call a 5-6-7, wait on the 5-8. Or, well, actually, it's not too great.
Neither's great, but you have to take Tempai regardless. But yeah, I don't think you could possibly pass this.
Take the Tontonki?
I actually don't. I don't mind that much. It's what, 1 out? Yeah, I think that's a pretty good weight. Yeah, sure enough.
Feels better than the 5-8. So anyway, when you see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of them, and it turns out that the 8th one is locked in
Healer
Dustin's hand.
Tempai. I think you have to just hit the button here. I don't like the Dama, even with 3 out, 4 out, and you figure the weight's pretty bad. You don't really want to just sumo this. It seems like just a defensive play to keep first place. If you do this, I almost feel you're planning on breaking Tempai on the last turn. Meanwhile, we see another draw of Dora to get an Anko, but the win there's going to be Dustin across the way for the 1100. So with the Dama, it does save the net 2,000 on the Ricci stick. And we're now in all last. Dealer has Pinfu type saves, but they're a distance away. I mean, if you can call for Tanyao and just shift that way, I think you do, but you have so much to get rid of. On the right, Pinfu shapes, possible distant Itsu in pin, given the 1, 3, 5, 7, 9. Never the greatest shapes when you're looking for value. Across the way, Pinfu, maybe a shift towards Chanta even with that 5-pin cut. And on the left, a few pairs, maybe 1, 2, 3 Sanshoku, but Oliver is just looking for anything to end this game.
Oh, what an awful draw across the way. That 4-mod kind of squelches all those plans. But you still have the opportunity to draw into the Dora, make some value out of it. But we're getting to a point now where 39,700, 42,000, not that much of a difference. So those Dama Pinfus might come back to haunt Ash a little, though we don't know if it would have turned out any different in the end.
Right, and meanwhile we have an Ishan 10 on the left for potentially Ricci. Ooh, now all sorts of options for Ishan 10 on the left. Could go Chitoi, could go Ricci Ipeiko, could go Ricci Nomi. And that's not any of them. It feels like it should connect to that hand, but it actually doesn't.
And there's even nice draws like the 3-mod switching for the 1-2-3 Sanshoku Ipeiko Pinfu.
It's the one I would want for sure. And Dustin would love to have called that 4-pin, but can't really overtake at this point if you do, so ends up passing there. In the meantime, we see Sylvie go ahead and call, probably going for that Chantadora too. You'd love to add Sanshoku, but I just don't see it here. Oh, and there is Tempai on the left. Will Dama can only win on the 1-pin, and those just aren't coming out. Maybe if the 9-so pairs up and then you draw a 2, but that'd be the only way. Can still, of course, win if you sumo the 4-pin. When you see a Chi, Q fighting here for a Tanyao, and that will be Tempai with the Shampoo 6-mon 8-pin, and that 8-pin is going to be very hard to use, but I think the 5 comes out first.
Oh, there's the
and I have a
Anko.
Dora 3 across the way. This is now a Mongon Ishan 10. We'll still need to complete one of the... Oh, there you go. It's just an easy Chi. The question is, what are you going to cut afterwards? I like the Shampoo here, even with one of each left.
Yeah, it's 1 tile versus 2 tiles.
And of course, if you're Sylvie, you're thinking, well, if the East comes out, I'll just con it. There's really no reason not to. Q has the ability to shift the weight, likes the Shampoo here. And the 4, and this is the problem with that Dama, is that would have dealt in. I think that's Tempai that's going to deal in, and that's exactly what happens. Tanyao at just 1,500, but Q definitely wants to at least get to 30,000, so has to win that hand at minimum, and then this one as well, and gets a decent Pinfu type hand. You're going to need 2 4-so to really pull together, though. On the right, looking at a probable 6, 7, 8 Sanshoku, also potentially Ipeiko. Across the way, a few pairs. You're just so far away from everything. You have 2 Dora, but it's going to be hard to use them in anything. Now you almost think Chitoi with these. And on the left, Pinfu type hand. You also have a couple extra 3 pairs. But I think you're just going Tanya with this. I wouldn't mind cutting the 1-so pair in a bit, especially if you get to call the Dora somehow.
Alright, tosses the 9-mon there, decides to preserve the 6, 7, 8 Sanshoku chance, but also 4 pairs for a shot at Chitoi.
Now you could call the East for Toy Toy, but the rest of those tiles are so much harder to call that I like passing. Like now that I have this Anko, now if the other East comes out, I'd probably call and just go the Toy Toy.
I don't know if Sylvie is within Mongon direct hit range of anyone, though.
As of right now, no, because even an 8,300 direct hit would not be enough to catch Q here. And Q could call there for the Tempai for 1 haunt, but wants a lot more. is currently Ishan 10 for Richi Itsu. And Oliver's hand just isn't budging. As I say that, one of the biggest choke points is filled. Ooh, interesting choice there for Q. And we'll go towards the Tanyao. Potential upgrade to Sonanko later. Also could turn it into an Ipeco if you draw 4 or 7 so.
It's a tough
But when you
choice
look at
over
that
in the
pawn,
right.
you look at that pawn and see the 7 and then the 6 and the 5.
Yeah. Unfortunate. Dustin made the interesting choice a turn ago to cut the 4-so from the 4-6-8-so Ryoncon to try and accept the 3-4 mon shape, where the 4-mon was the current pair candidate. And didn't want to give up the 6-7-8 Sanchoku either, but now it's kind of cutting towards a Tanyao, but this Richi's gonna throw a wrench in there. 4-7 mon, and it looks like there's 3 left, if I'm counting right.
3 left. 1 in the dealer's hand and 2 to the left, 2 to the right. Oh, and you feel bad drawing that 6 the next turn. Like, actually, even if I'd had that, I'd really like to go Suanka with this. But still, the Richi Tanyao gets you over 30k, which is generally the goal. Now we have Dustin is Ishan 10 for Tanyao Sanshoku. Would have to push the 8 so, but I think if Tenpai is reached, it gets pushed. But not if the dealer sumos first, Richi Sumo Tanyao. Ura, and that is what Q needed. That actually jumps to first place, but without a Garayame, we're not done yet. Dealer here has a pretty decent starting hand. Not much value, though. Of course, you can't accept the 4 Mandora. You want to fill in that penchant. On the right, Pinfu type hand, possible 6-7-8 Sanshoku across the way. Possible Itsu and Mon. Other than that, there isn't much. And on the left, I mean, it's a Pinfu type hand, but that's very loose. It's kind of hard to fill everything.
And I hate to keep bringing up these Dama hands, but if that 4-pin Ron had been made, this comeback would never have been possible. So sometimes these small hesitancies can snowball into huge Gaktens like this. And Q is all the more happy for it. Q's hand is really tough with those 3 pins gone, though. So you want some kind of shift here. Actually decides to cut it.
Draw the Dora. Yeah, no, I like this play a lot, especially now you have the 2, 3, 4, 5 in Mon. You'd love to be able to check the second Dora now. So I think there's a lot of routes to go. If you don't cut the 1, 2, I think you have to cut the 9, 9 anyway.
Yeah.
And you may end up cutting both and going Tanya, depending on what you draw. If you draw, say, 4 so, I'm planning to cut 1 pin and then 9, 9. That 4 so on the left will help immensely, as that is now Tenpai. Richi Dora waiting on 7 so. Doesn't take the Shampon, doesn't think the 9 so is going to come out as it comes right out. Although that probably wouldn't have happened if that had not been the Richi tile.
I really like the Shampon a lot more, though, just because, waiting on a 9 is a high-quality wait. You already have half of an Akusuji Trop in your pond.
I agree with that. I much prefer the Shampon here. A 7 is worse than a 9, and you can still win on the last 5. At least in theory. We know that's not going to happen with where it is. But Dustin does have an incentive to push, and if Tenpai is reached, that 7 so could get pushed. The other thing is your pawn doesn't really give any information. You see Dustin attempting. If you call this, that 7 so is ultimately coming out. Maybe not this turn, but it will come out. Unless it gets paired up.
We have seen Dustin do things.
Well, Dustin's thinking if you win this hand, it's going to be second place. On either sumo or a direct hit. You figure no one's going to end up dealing into you. Meanwhile, the question is, there's
Oh.
the 7, so that was going to be the answer to the question. Ricci, Sumo, Dora, you did get the extra foo from this, and that will be enough to take over first place for Oliver, who is the winner here with 28.7, Q taking 13.3 off that big dealer Mungon. Dustin with a plus 2.6, and Sylvie taking the big hit here. Just couldn't get anything running.
Yeah, so a really close game towards the end where the Baimon made it look like there was going to be heavy separation. That comeback from Q and a few key wins from Dustin ended up keeping things nice and close. It's the kind of game we love to see. So give us a second as we work out the results of that match and how they figure in. Looks like Dustin's going to stay pretty much around the same. Oliver obviously feeling a lot more secure now that you've got that plus 28.7 on your promotion spot. I think at plus 96 now. Well, Q over here does go up by 13 points, but ultimately doesn't feel like that's going to be enough to make a difference. Have to have some crazy games to have a shot
Q
at
needs to get
keeping.
around minus 100 after these 4 games to seriously be able to stay in A2. It is possible, especially how volatile some of these players are, that they could end up dropping 50 or 60 points and helping you out. But when you are 120 clear of second to last, you have a long way to go. I think we're going to stay at this table, get the second game when that comes, and then switch over to the other table.
Sounds good.
Apparently, the other table just finished as well, as we see both tables starting within a minute of each other. And the result on that one was Garrick plus 20.6, Tristan plus 7.5, Rachel minus 6.3, and Haru minus 20.8. Haru's kind of been on a downfall, was in complete control of A2 not that long ago, was sitting around plus 250, and is now all the way down to plus 115.5. Still pretty safely into the promotion spots, but another couple games like that, and you have a huge fight with everyone from Tucker, Garrett, Phillip, and even potentially Huang that you don't really want to be in, considering where you were at the end of session 4.
We actually do have a request to look at the other table instead. I don't know what we have planned here. They've both started. So it is easier for us to not change the names. So that's what I'm tending towards.
According to what I have here, both tables are doing all 4 today.
Okay, in that case, we'll definitely be able to catch them after this game. So it looks like we're going to have Oliver as the starting dealer, followed by Dustin, Sylvie, and then Aldwin. And we have just under 4 minutes before this game starts, so I'm going to take a short break for some water.
All right, sounds good. See you guys in 2 or 3 minutes.
Alright, it looks like we are starting now. Dora's the 3-so. Oliver's starting hand looks to be in fairly decent shape, has the awkward 1-3 pin, but other than that, easy to expand, easy pin, possible shifts to Tanya now with that 8-so draw. Over on the right, we see a pawn of the Hatsu, also a fairly straightforward and speedy looking hand. It's no real value there, but Dustin doesn't really have a problem with just moving things along. Across the way, we have a potential Honitsu. We have 4 pairs. We have 2 Yakuhai pairs. That's an easy pawn, and then you decide whether you want to go for the Honitsu or not. And last but not least, over to the left, we have what looks to be the workings of a Tanya, possibly a 3-4-5 Sanchoku or a Pinfu.
Well, I think the hand to pay attention to is Sylvie's for sure. There's so many options here. You also have that Ryanman if you just want to go for the 1 or 2 Han. But when you see that, you just want so much more. Meanwhile, the hand on the left starting to develop, but we'll need the Formon probably twice. And you have so many overlaps with a 3-5-5-6 and 2-4-5-5, where you have duplicate tile needs. Meanwhile, we're seeing pairs everywhere. On the right, even could turn this into Toy Toy with the right calls. And Sylvie does not want to call this 4 and decides ultimately against it. It was definitely a decision point.
Oh, there's an uncle of the 6.
Yeah, I mean, you're keeping it. If you called basically anything that isn't a run, I think you just go for the Toy Toy. There you go. And that is the play, waiting on the Champon. 7-mon, 3-pin. Dealer has 1 of each, but there's also 1 of each in the wall.
Draw of the Chun across the way is going to put Sylvie and Ishanten for Honitsu Yaku Mangan.
Will now be able to get rid of all the tiles outside of So.
Unfortunately,
a bit unfortunate there on the right. Oh, we could see a con. It wouldn't actually help this hand, so I like keeping the safe tile. 7-mon, very dangerous. Feels like it won't come out quite yet. Actually does fit in because we'll fill the needs of 1 of those 4-mon. The other will have to be an actual 4-mon. In the meantime, we have a Tempai across the way, waiting on 2 5-mon. Just 1 turn too late.
Yeah, so that 2-5-so wait across the way there. Sylvie waited for the upgrade around the lower Sozu because the 7-so Kanchan was pretty much completely dead with that pawn. And
there is the deal. And on the right, the Toy Toy Hatsu 5200. Don't have to be actual Ricci stick. But yeah, as mentioned, Sylvie was Tempai there, and all the Tuso were dead at that point. So didn't actually upgrade the weight quality. Upgraded the Ryanman. Deer here has a decent starting hand, not that bad, especially if you can cut the 8 and 9 pin. Go for Ricci Tanya, possible Sanchoku on the 2-3-4 or 3-4-5 on the right. Pinfu hand as well, but a long way away. Across the way, Ricci, you're looking for any kind of value, and I'm not seeing it quite yet. The draws may change that on the left. Definitely a Pinfu hand. You're looking for a way to get Sanchoku either from 5-6-7 or 6-7-8.
So what we saw here was Dustin decided to drop the 7-so on the first turn, but then cut the penchant anyway on the second turn. So my preferred move there is to just keep the 7-so to begin with and go for that Tanyao. You'd be in a slightly better position than you are now, though this 4-pin draw certainly makes up for that a little bit. You have a nice Ishanten. Could potentially go for the 4-5-6 Sanshoku Tanya Pinfu.
I really like this 2-mon cut. Now you have 2 different options for any Peiko. I don't like the 5-mon cut, though. I think you just get rid of probably the 6-so.
Yeah, especially since the 7-so is on the first turn. It's not quite as good of a 4 consecutive tiles as normal.
I feel really sad if you draw 4-mon or 6-mon. Meanwhile, that Honitsu for Q is looking much better now. It is Ishanten. It's kind of an awkward one, but it is Ishanten. And Dustin, okay, that's what Dustin was going for. I was looking for the Sanchoku, manages to draw into the potential here. Ricci, Pinfu, Tanya, possible Sanchoku. Needs the 6-pin to pull in the most value. Oh, and there's another 3 on the left. And there's a Chase Ricci. Ricci Pinfu on the 5-8.
There's currently 3 of those left versus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 versus 3. It's equal. Of course, there's more value in the dealer's hand.
Bit of a hesitation that one, so, but there's no way you call that. Q not believing the con. Oh, there's the expensive end. Ricci, Pinfu, Tanyao, Sanshoku. Any aura would be a dealer Hanemon. Instead, just the dealer Mongon. But Dustin jumping out to a big lead, and Oliver sitting there at 11,000, and we're still really early.
Nora is the tune, one of those in the dealer's starting hand. You're looking to pair that up. The 6-pin draw helps you out a little bit. You'd be going for a Ricci, Dora 2 if you manage to get the tune. Over on the right, really kind of disconnected stuff though. That pawn pair helps you out. Probably going to have to dump the tune soon if you want to push with a calling hand though. Across the way, kind of see similar ideas. We have the Yakuhai, though it's a much better composition, especially with the ability to pull in the 2-mana or the 2-so, and then over on the left, and a little bit of just trying to, you could go for the Sozo Honitsu, though I don't really see it happening in time.
Yeah, everything just kind of feels average. None of these hands are great. None of them are particularly terrible.
Looks like the Chun is going to get released, so Dora's dead now, and that's going to give these slower hands a little bit of leeway. What do you think about taking the 3-so chief, your Q?
I don't mind it. I just don't think there's any value here, so I'm just going to take anything I can to speed it up. I'd probably Chi. I'm well known for taking aggressive Otozuke. I mean, ultimately, you're going to end up calling the Haku anyway. That's the whole goal in this hand. Dealer is starting to develop towards a 6-7-8 Sanshoku.
Could even potentially get the Itsu there, though. That makes it a lot harder. Well, it makes it impossible to get the Tanya, of course, so that gets given up immediately.
Well, okay, just draw the 3 yourself. There's an old rule in ARML, just sumo. And now dealer is trying to maneuver this. Now you have multiple options for value. You could go for the Tanyao Ipeiko if you draw 2 or 5 mon, like that.
I feel like I really wanted to keep the Tumon if I'm Aldwin, though. Go for the Headless Ishanten.
Yeah, it's not like that 7 pin does anything for you, and the 2-so is terrible. I could at least see the argument for 2-so because it's going to look relatively safe. But the 7 pin looks terrible against everyone. And now you see Dust like, well, I can try and maneuver this. You really want the upgrade to the Sanshoku now, especially with these shapes. But I think if you get Tempai, you just take it for the Ricci Tanyao.
There's this.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Bit tragic. I mean, if you're gonna commit to that, you could have cut the 6-8 so earlier and had the Peiko, but you can't possibly know that. Oh, and there's our backfire across the way from Q. That would have been Tempai if that 2-mon had been kept earlier. Sylvie doesn't take the pawn of the 6-so, would potentially be waiting on a Tonki, instead likes the 7 pin here.
No shift there. The 9 pins are dead, and the 6-so just came out.
Yeah, and Q almost seems like you're just playing for Tempai payments here. Not that that's bad when there are only 3 draws left for you.
So Q avoids dropping the 8-so, which would give Dustin the Tempai on a pawn. But Dustin has one more chance to get into Tempai here. And that's going to be
There it is. That's about as easy a call as you're ever going to see.
Oh, and that's gonna
Oh, and
show
actually ends
Dustin.
up winning this hand, getting 1800 with the home buff.
So Dustin now
And
sitting at
just 50,000.
giant lead. All right, so
And
it looks like 2-3-4 Sanchoku here. A little bit slow. You want to make another shape if that's the case. Oh, now with this Tuso Anko, things get a little more interesting. The rest of the hands are honestly not standing out that much to me. We have a maybe shift to a 1-2-3 or 2-3-4 Sanchoku over on the right, but not much else. Looking for a Ricci Pinfu. Across the way, you got 4 pairs, but kind of meh shapes or anything. Over on the left, though, it's probably the most interesting hand.
for sure, I'm looking at that and going, can we get the Honitsu Sananko, maybe even Suanko? And the answer is only if things pair up, and they're not doing so, but definitely selling out on the Honitsu here. Meanwhile, a dealer is already Ishan 10. Would just be Richinomi, but not going to complain too much about that. Now comes the 6-1 here, losing a bunch of upgrade, a bunch of actual. Well, okay,
Oh,
never
who
mind.
cares?
I don't have to
The
finish this thought
classic.
at all.
Yeah, I was gonna say, 5-1 doesn't even look that bad as normal with the 2-7 mon across the way being dropped, so I like just taking the lighter Yishanten there, but this works out. 2-5
Or
pin is
there are a few things that are as disconcerting as drawing the Dora after your Ricci turn into an open hand that looks like it's going Honitsu. But it passes, and Oliver's probably just going to fold out. If there's a play for Tempai, of course, I imagine it'll get taken. We have a Tempai across the way. Khan into Ricci. This is a Ricci Nomi waiting on 6-pin. There are 2 left in the wall.
surprisingly, there's also only 2 of the 2-5 mon. 2-5 pin if I'm counting right too. So these are even Steven.
Yeah, that's what I count as well.
Oh,
And there's
there's
one of
one of the
those 6s. So now it's a 1 versus 2. And normally I wouldn't like this, but again, Q is sitting at minus 273.7. You have to make plays like this. And there's one of the 5s. We're now 1 versus 1. Yeah, Oliver's trying to get towards Tempai, and actually isn't that far off now. The 1 mon should be safe to both here. The 9-so is going to look very safe as well. So there's definitely a path towards Tempai payments.
And 9-so is indeed safe. It's Gembutsu now. Well, there's the last
Yeah, it
one.
would have been a call for Sylvie for Tempai, but that would have been a deal in.
So we're probably thinking about the 5-so.
Oh, well, that's an easy call there, as Oliver does still make it to Tempai. Could even get the Haite here. He's Furi Tem, but that doesn't matter when you have a Yaku. And we're going to see 3 players Tempai. So Oliver nets 1,000, and the pot nets 2,000. And dealer here has, there's potential here, but I don't really like it. I almost feel this is a Tanya hand. You look at that, how do you get Tanya? Well, because you're going to end up cutting almost everything anyway. On the right, maybe an Ipeco and pin, just feels slow. Across the way, Pinfu type hand, the shapes are definitely there, especially when you draw that 7-so. And on the left, probably the best hand of the group, but still isn't that good. Tanyao, maybe. It's just, none of these hands are good.
No, we even see Dustin go as far as to chuck the door on turn 1 over the Once Gone West, and that's just disappointing for Oliver, of course, who could have made quite a nice hand with a pair of it or a triplet of the Yakuhai Seat Wind. But honestly, I'm not feeling too bad if I'm Oliver. I mean, there's really good potential here for a Tanya or some kind of thing. Not that you want it, but you'll take what
Now,
you can
Duster's
get.
going to call here, and is now Ishanten now upgrades the shape significantly. And just looking at that 2,900 in the middle and saying, please give. And even that 8-pin, I almost want to call it with these shapes, but you really can't with the 1-so pair on the right for Sylvie.
Yeah, makes things quite difficult this late in the hand. Another pair.
Yeah, I think you definitely hedge towards Chitoy now. But we have dealer Tempai. Had been waiting on that 5 for quite a while. Now waiting on the 2-5 pin for, it would just be 1,500 points, but it'll be a 24 if someone deals into it. And of course, the other 2,000 for the Rishi sticks in the middle.
Chitoy Ishanten over to the right now, decides to cut the 9-pin to try and preserve the hand's other shapes. Definitely seems like the right decision to me.
No, just sumo. And 4,400, and Dustin's lead is not going down. 54,000, and another pretty good starting hand. Not much value yet. Could shift potentially towards a 4-5-6 Sanshoku, but when you're dealer, you don't complain about hands like that, even if it doesn't have much value. On the right, definitely a Pinfu hand. You also have a pair of Haku, though, so that might just be called. Try and be done with it. Get the Haku Dora with a 4 Homba. Across the way, Pinfu hand as well. Maybe a 2-3-4 Sanshoku, but it feels a long way away. And on the left, I mean, that's a Shanta 789 Sanshoku. Very distant chances for like Daisongan or Shosangan. Of course, we know Daisongan's out at this point, but I think you just call and take what you can get.
Sylvie picks up another Dora here. Now has a lot more potential value. You could bring this up to a Mangan if you end on the 2-5 so wait or kill it in the meantime.
And Dustin does this thing again with the Ryonkon, cutting the 6 early.
I'm just, in this case, the 6-6-6-7 just isn't doing anything because your pair is already full. And you're going to cut 7-pin here anyway, right? No. Besides the Sakigiri from the good shape. I mean, I think
And
it's
if
just...
you draw the 8, it would be nice, but that's about the only thing that helps this hand. The 7-pin doesn't actually help.
And I think that the thought here is that, oh, I'm doing a preemptive Suji trap, but you're also doing a preemptive cut in Uke and just kind of hurting yourself most of the time.
Even maybe going back could have kept the 4-pin with the 2-2-4. I figure what the shapes were at that point. But okay, there's your 8. I mean, if you can just read the wall perfectly, you can cut the 2-4 mod here and go for the Intotsu.
Honestly, though, the Intotsu isn't even that great. You see, of course, you have 3 of the 6 pins. You see 2 of the 9 pins. You see 1 of the 2 pins, and now you have this kind of backfred Ryanman here, though it's better than what you had before.
Meanwhile, Sylvie's building a monster there on the right.
Yeah, managed to draw in that third. Dora is sitting in Ishanten.
Yeah,
Would
it is
love to call
Ishanten.
Haku. Oliver is holding on to it for dear life, though. At this point, none of the dragons, other than the Hatsu, which Oliver has a pair as, have made an appearance. And there are some players who, at that point in the game, will start to think
Here's the
about...
last one. This is the easiest call you're going to make. The question is, do you
Yeah.
dare get greedy? And this late, the answer is no.
No, absolutely not. Even
Not
as
with a
is,
Mongod.
it's only a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's a 2-tile weight, which isn't that great.
Each.
There's our dealer Ricci. Could even take the Ipeco here. And you can tell that's the decision point. And Will takes the Ricci Ipeco waiting on 7-pin.
Yeah, both weights are equally as bad here, even though one is a 3-sided weight. And this has the Suji trap, so I doubt it's going to make a huge difference. Oh, unless you're Sylvie, but Sylvie's going to push it even if it wasn't Suji.
Yeah. Sylvie, with this hand, you're pushing anything. You'd push Dora if you had to. You won't actually have to, even if the last one is drawn here. And the last one is actually hand to the left.
Or as my mahjong mentor would say, you'd push your grandmother off a cliff for that kind of hand. And indeed, that is the case.
And
Looking
we're
to
about to see it come.
go.
And you can see the hesitation. Does not want to
Yeah,
throw this, but you have to throw it. You just have to do it.
Yeah, it's suspicious because the 6-pin came out that much later after the 4-pin, but
Oh, the aura. That's how it gets expensive, is if you hit the aura there. And that's where that last 7-pin was. Last one on the wall after the deal in was the Oradora. So now Dealer is just on a complete rampage, 67,600. And this is the kind of score Justin needed to be able to try and compete for a promotion spot again.
yeah, especially with Ash being pretty close to last place as well. This is ideal for Dustin. Ash comes out of promotion. Dustin enters a promotion, has a little bit of leeway depending on how the last 2 games go. You know, you're sitting comfy if you're Dustin here. Q, I think Q at this point has kind of accepted the fact that digging out 100 points is probably not going to happen in this game. Even if you have 2 more games, it's very, very difficult, but is respectfully playing really decent, good mahjong and allowing the rest of the table to fight it out, which is probably what I would have done in the same position as well. Don't really like getting in other people's ways if I don't have a chance.
Now we're looking at these hands. We're getting a pretty good one there on the left, potentially Ricci, Pinfu, Ipeco, Dora. We'll need a pair, though. Actually, technically, I believe this is headless. No, that's 2 3s. Not quite. I misread that.
And now it's 3 3s. Decide to preemptively cut the Kanchan near the edge. Don't know what good this 2-3-3-3-4 is doing you with 2 other pairs already. The west
Well,
one
if
south.
you go Honitsu, that's your answer. It's really hard to get any value from this, but kind of getting hard to get value no matter what you do. The question is because you also turn this into a 2-3-4 Sonjaku as your backup plan, cutting the west pair ultimately.
Each.
Meanwhile, that I believe is Tempai on the left, and it is, takes the Nobetan 5 8-mon weight for Ricci Dora, potentially Dora 2, but the 5-mon are completely dead, and the 8-mon only has 1 left in the wall.
Justin sidesteps for now, discards the west pair, and gets back into 2 Shanten right after.
Boom.
Oh no, there the 8 comes out. Ricci Dora.
That's honestly
No
a little
aura.
surprising, but I mean, there were 2 Dora across the way. You have that potential Ipeco shape. You don't need the 8-mon, and Aldwin is in a spot where he has to push.
We're in East 3 now. Another game with a lot of early repeats. Madir here has a few pairs, but probably not Chitoy, possibly Peiko. You may even shift to Tanya if you end up cutting the 1-mon pair. On the right, you have possibly Peiko and lower So if you draw that 3 So. Also have 2 Dora, so anything you get to Tempai, that's what you're going for. Across the way, now that is a lot of pairs. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then just gets rid of one of them and probably is looking for Pinfu. Like if you add any Peiko, it'd be great, but I'm not seeing any, especially having cut that 7-mon. For that reason, I don't like cutting that 7-mon. I think if you're going to do that, you cut the 7 So instead. But regardless, also shifting towards a Tanya. And on the left, possible 6 of an 8 Sanshoku, and that definitely looks like the value there.
Dealer's hand really hasn't moved that much since the start, and we're getting towards the second row now. There are ways that you can easily shift this into a called Tanyao. 6-pin Chi would be great here.
We see Dustin passing on the 7 So Chi, not going to sell out, just drawing the 6-pin instead. I think you just have to cut the 2 there. Feeling that towards 3 pairs. And yeah, as I said earlier, it feels like it's going to end up shifting towards Tanya. And that definitely appears to be how we're heading now. Could even be Chitoy. Now you feel a little bad about cutting that 1-mon. but you can't possibly know that's what's going to happen here. The problem is if you're Sylvie with this hand at 12,000 points and someone reaches, what do? Well, now you just sell on your Chitoi Tanyao. You're Ishan 10. This is your value. I think you just go for it. This is one where I probably would have cut the 6 mon in off hopes there's a potential Suju trap later, but just trying to keep the shapes, and of course there's your backfire.
Yeah, it's hard to balance Chitoi and a Tanyo hand like this when you don't have 3 consecutive pairs. Though now it's a little bit more doable. Decides to keep the kind of double-winged 4-4-6-8-8 mon shape. Still has options for a Riichi Tanyo Pinfu Ipeiko potentially if you get very lucky.
Also Ishan 10 across the way for Riichi Pinfu.
Right, looking to get that 3-pin draw. 2 of them are in Sylvie's hand. See the Dora come out finally. No pawns. In fact, it doesn't look like there are any potential ways for Q to take that pawn and still make a Yaku there, so it makes absolute sense.
Dust will make a claw towards Tanya here, maybe even just towards K10 payments. And Sylvie tries to get this into a Tanya Ipeiko. Pinfu if you draw the 7 mon. Tenpai on the left, but there is no Yaku.
Yeah, I was almost wondering if Dustin was going to cut the south pair instead, because we've seen Dustin do similar things before.
Now,
Trying to
what
guarantee
on the 8 so? Do you feel good about just pawning it and cutting the south? You seeing if you build towards a Yaku, or do you like keeping the 2 safe tiles in case something changes?
It's really tricky here. I think we have enough safety against the dealer with the 6-7 pin and the 3 mon that we could do that pretty fine. And then of course you have the last south to toss once you get into Tenpai with the valid Tanki for Tonyao, but I could see you going both ways. I prefer the call.
There's going to be one more draw here for dealer. That is not Tenpai, so you can't take it. That's not going to be it, so unless 4 or 8 mon comes out, we will be moving to East 4, and Dustin extends the lead. This is one of the situations where you're like, hey, 3,000, that's way more than I could have won if I tried actually winning that hand.
Yeah, now goes over 70,000.
And we're in East 4. Dealer has possible 789 Sanshiku, possible Chanta, also a floating Hatsudora. On the right, few pairs, but possibly Peiko in lower Mon, I guess. I think you just play straightforward, though. Across the way, a West pair, that is the Yaku High for West player. And the rest of this hand, though, is kind of yuck. On the left, few pairs, possible Itsu in pin, though gives that right up, looking for the 3-4-5 Sanshiku for sure.
I mean, the choke point of dealer 789 Sanshoku is obviously the 8 mon. 2 of those are gone, but then again, 3 of the 9 so are gone from what we can see.
I
Actually,
like this call. Yeah, just go for it.
Yeah, this is fine. If you get lucky, you pair up the Hatsu, and then not only do you have the backup with the Hatsu pawn, but also
Chanta.
Chanta or the Sanshoku or both. It'll be a little sad if you get the 9 so here and you have to chi into Tenpai before you control the Hatsu, but I think you just have to take it.
Yeah, with the confirmed Yaku, I'd probably take it. If the 3 or 6 came, I absolutely wouldn't. And a bit unfortunate because 2 of those 9 so are getting pretty locked in Oliver's hand there to the right, who definitely seems to be going Chitoi.
And these kinds of discards from Aldwin look a lot like either an Otosuke or a Sanshoku. You're not really thinking Itsu too much with the 2-5 mon discarded. You know, it's probably not going to be a Chanta because the North and the Chun on the first turns over the 5 and the 5 mon. So with the late 2 mon, you might consider that there could have been a shift Chanta. It's going to be a tough hand to win.
Interesting that the West was passed by Dustin. because that is the Yakuwa, and probably the only way this hand's ever going to finish.
Oh, well, we see this decision to pass Tenpai doesn't want to toss the live Hatsu this late in the hand. And then the decision to Dama is actually going to backfire there with 4-pin can't be won on from Sylvie.
I don't hate this Dama as much as I normally would, but I think I just reach you the 5-pin and wait on that 2.
Yeah, I think, if you're going to take the Ricci, you'll take the Suji trapped one. And I understand the Wanted Dama with none of the Dora visible. Especially now that there's... Oh, no. The one's cut
This
on a
should
Tanki.
scream Cheetoy. This should scream Cheetoy.
Okay, indeed it does, and the safe tile is played. And Sylvie still has the 4, so...
I mean, the 3 comes out for sure. But I mean, this is the type of hand where you feel it's likely going to deal it eventually, but dodging the Apatsu will save you points.
Oh, there it goes.
This will be a Ricci Cheetoy Dora 2. Will there be Aura? No Aura, but that's difference between an 8,000 deal in and a 12,000 deal in. If you just instinctively autopilot it, you deal into that 12,000, it feels so bad. Even there, you know, you're never going to end up dodging that East, but you feel good about not having to pay in the Apatsu.
All right, dealer's hand here is going to start with a... not a whole lot, to be honest. You're just looking at a Pinfu here. Possibly some kind of 5, 6, 7 Sanshoku. Or Dora Acceptance with the 3-mon. Over on the right, it's looking like you could get a 7, 8, 9 Ippei Win pin. Maybe a Ricci Pinfu if you get good fills of the 8-pin and the 7-mon first, so it needs a little work. Across the way, we have 1, 2, 3 pairs, but your Ishanten from a Tanyao with the Dora Acceptance on the 3-mon. And then over on the left, we have this interesting shape in Pinzu over there that could turn into an Ippei, could turn into a 1, 2, 3 Sanshoku. Looks like there's interesting opportunities for development, even if they're a little bit slow on the left and the right.
In the meantime, I'll interject. The other table had their second game finish, and Haru with a 49.5, Garrick minus 7.9, Rachel minus 20.8, and Tristan minus 20.8. So Haru definitely preserving that promotion spot. And there is a tie for third place. But as for this table, we now have all hands getting pretty close here, but I think every one of them has too many pairs.
Sylvie across the table had the option to discard the 2-mons there and go for the Tanyao Ipeiko Sanshoku, or could discard the 6-mon and go for the potential Sanonko or Ipeiko or Dora Acceptance. But gives it up in searching for the... I guess it's really not that great. The 2 5-mon Shampoo is looking like what you're going to get stuck with. Unless I'm misreading the shapes.
Well, I think the idea here is you draw a 4 or a 6 and just go for the Ipeiko, but it's going to be hard to do so. It's a super greedy play for the Tanyao Sanshoku Ipeiko.
I just, you could have gotten that if you kept the 4-pin, 6-pin, and drawn the 5-pin, even though you're going to be waiting on the 5-pin again.
Tenpai right now with that 7-mon, and instead you're just not.
Well, the idea still is the same, though. Like you said, we're looking for
the for 4, sure. 5, you're 6. Looking for the value. You're sitting here. I'm at 1,900 points. I want Baimon. I don't think that process is necessarily wrong. I just would have taken what the game gave me. Meanwhile, at hand on the left for Q is very close to being very dangerous, but still stuck. And when you're at row 3 with this, you're feeling pretty bad about it. I'd absolutely cheat this 5.
No effective draws yet for Sylvie. There is a little bit of help there, but it's not the help you want. You don't want to get the 4-pin.
No, that's actually a bit of a mistake, I think, from Q. You throw the Chu in there, you can even pawn the 1-pin or 5 so for Tenpai. Yep. You definitely don't want to be no 10 with this.
Oh,
Okay, just draw it yourself. But even if you'd have done that and kept the 5, you still would have been Tempai.
there's only one mon left, which is what you really want to win on here. I'm wondering about the possibility of this being a Dama. But, if you're Q, once again, you have to high roll, so this Ricci makes perfect sense.
I think this gets cheed. Yeah, and dealer will be Tempai as well for Tanya Dora. Five is safe, and we're going to have, what, 3 players? No, yeah, 3 players Tempai. There was a fold across the way from Sylvie, who now dropped below 0, but we have another South 1. Man, this table has been long games.
Yeah, absolutely brutal. Yeah, there's not even been a Baimon in this game. We have someone over 70,000 already. Other game had a Baimon and everyone ended around 30,000, 40,000.
Well, you here has South pair, so that can be called. And you're sitting at the 13 in the middle. It's not great, but it's better than nothing. The rest of your shapes are terrible. On the right, the 3-3-3-3-5. So you're looking for an excuse to con, but the rest of the hand does not give you an excuse to con. That's terrible. Across the way, Pinfu, that is, I believe, already an East Shunten. No, still looking for a head. That is Rian Shunten, but a pretty good one. On the left, we have the Chun pair. 2, 3, 4 Sanchiku, but unlikely.
Oh, there's the pawn. Q moving towards the faster hand. No Dora currently, but could accept the 7 pin. Especially if you want to replace the 8-9 So Penchan. Still no sign of those Souths for Oliver. Really wants to keep this dealership, try and get over 30k at the very least. And that draw is definitely going to help out there now. Do you drop the 6 pin in hopes of getting the 3-4-5 Sanchoku? Actually decides to drop the South pair. I'm not sure how much I like that, going into the middle of the second row with a Yaku you can call for, but
I definitely don't like cutting the South. I'd be cutting probably the 1, so keeping my option up for the 3-4-5 Sanchoku shift later, and keeping the 3-4-5-6 pin as well. Even the 8-mon's a pretty good discard as well. Meanwhile, on the right, building towards that Tanya, looking for an excuse to con, but the shapes just aren't giving you that.
Interesting question. If you're the hand on the left, you pawn the 4 pin looking for the Toy. Well, I guess now it's...
For sure. I'd cut the 2 pin.
Yeah, just a straightforward play there.
Yeah, I see
like
a call
like
for... Yeah, it could be anything at this point. Well, going to be hard to be really so with that Chun pawn.
Yeah. If you imagine the Chun as a Hatsu, you kind of get excited, but absolutely not. Especially with the 2 So's 3 times out. I don't think there's any way you shift this to a regular Honitsu either this late in the game.
Yeah, we do see the... Could have called for Tempai, but would have been waiting on the 1-4 with a pawn of the 4. And there's that South. Man, you wish you still had that pair in your hand.
Absolutely. Instead, now you have this kind of awkward Atosuke, or even just K10, Chushan-ten.
I'm sitting here going, 70,000? I think I could get more.
Yep, takes the 7 pin, Dora, Kanchan, Ricci. Still 3 left in the wall this late.
Yeah, always surprising. Well, now down to 2, and that Chi prevented the Sumo. Man, we're going to see dealer Tempai here. I imagine this gets pushed. Cannot win on the Gimbutsu 9 so, but... Oh, just Sumo!
That Chi sure did a lot. Prevent the Sumo, draw the Dora yourself, and then draw yourself the Sumo right afterwards.
And it's now almost back at 30,000, and that's a decent starting hand here. You prefer if one of those 4s were a 3 and so, but I feel that Penchan could be Ricci Pinfu, possible door acceptance. On the right, bunch of tiles in pin, possible Itsu. The rest of the shapes aren't great. Maybe you could shift this to something else. It would be very hard to do. Across the way, few pairs, 4 already. So you're definitely hedging towards Chitoy. You'd like to turn into regular hand, but with two Dora, well, now you have 5 pairs. Now you probably have to think about it very hard. And on the left, South pair, a few other pairs as well. I think it's just a call and go.
Yeah, interesting. Going between pair selection here, Suji traps the 9, so doesn't entirely throw away that potential sequence either, though.
Yeah, I
So
definitely like getting rid of the 6-0 here.
The first Onko. But the 7-so and the 4-mon don't feel like things that you're going to be able to call, so I'd rather just keep the direct Chitoy with the most potential. Well, never mind.
I was going to say, I don't mind it that much, but I didn't expect to draw the 8-mon just like that. I think you just pwn. You absolutely pwn.
Yeah.
This should all out selling on Suanko. Like, I understand the feeling, but I would just go. Toy, Dora 2, possible Sun Onko. But looking at the minus 2200 is looking for the comeback hand. Meanwhile, there's a Chitoy Dama on the left, waiting on Gimbutsu 5-pin.
There's the Chitoy again.
And there's the Chitoy. But sees the 2 as one cut, gets rid of it. Now shift to the 4 on the left for Q.
It's the famous Suji Toitsu to the 7-pin. And you figure with the early 5-pin cut that Sylvie probably doesn't have a 4-pin in hand.
Now Q gets tempted by it, but okay, he's going for it.
And Q has a little bit more reason, I think, than Sylvie as the substitute.
Right. And Oliver's having nothing to do with this. Does not want to con that 4-so.
So if Sylvie is playing the imaginary Will I Promote game, Sylvie was at plus 75 before the previous game, and then she took a minus 40, so she's about plus 20 now, plus 28, something like that.
They have the Dama on the 6-mon. Dealer has 2 of them, but they're unlikely to come out.
Reach.
Well, there's the reach.
And says, okay, I've had enough of this, and then waits on the 4. And again, there's not really an incentive for Oliver to push this.
Yeah.
And that is Dora especially. So it's not getting pushed. It's a dead weight now. Could see the Ricci here with the Peiko. It said Damas. There is only one left. So I agree with the Dama. Plus, this one where even if you win it, you're still so sad.
This 9-pin is a little scary at this point in the hand.
Yeah, but I mean, you're sitting at minus 2200. You have to push. There's the Sumo. You just take it.
Yeah, that's a Mangan.
And you get the Ricci stick, and you are now at 7,400, and at least within range of coming back now, out of 4th place.
Yeah, you still have your final dealership going for you.
Dealer here has a whole bunch of So tiles, not too much else, though. Possible Tanya, possible Honitsu on the right. 1, 2, 3 Sansaku looks like the best path. You'd love to add Junchun to it, but that 6-pin pair makes that unlikely. Across the way, pair of South, pair of North. I mean, you'd love the sushi, but I don't think that's going to happen either. And on the left, a Tanya, possible Pinfu. And you'd love to pull in the door there as well.
Well, Dustin just kind of has this practical Honitsu where it's not even just being greedy, it's just the best thing to go for your, at the moment anyway. Does decide to keep around this 2-mon, potentially to accept the 4-mon Dora.
Now, the other table just had its next game finished. They've now completed 2, even though they started half an hour after us. Tristan, the big winner, with 54.3. Garrick with a plus 6.5. Haru minus 12.5. Rachel minus 48.3. So if we can get a refresh on the standings now that there have been 2 more games in, that help.
And that result for Rachel is definitely going to be news to Ada and I. I believe Rachel is going to fall believe both of us and make it a little bit easier for people to escape. She still has that one more game.
I believe that's 2 more games. They started
2
later,
more.
but I think they're only on game 3 now.
Okay,
But on this
okay.
game,
Haven't
Dealer has
lagged.
a pretty good. Yeah, they started later. So we've been at this table a long time.
I'm getting old. Anyways,
Gee.
yeah. She across the way, going for the cheaper hand here, but we're in the middle of the second row, so it makes sense.
And I see an Ishunten on the left now with that. All those blockers around Dora. It'd be so frustrating for anyone who's going to need those.
Dustin looking for
Possible. Ooh, I like that 9-pin draw. That's huge. Definitely cut the 3 here.
Oh,
Oh no, I'm thinking Itsu. You don't even need Dora if you draw that. But the thinking here for Oliver is accept the 3-4. Now we see Dealer is getting closer to that Chinitsu, but still a long way off.
Boom.
Hatsu here
Now
is
that's
dead.
going to be a pawn. Yeah, there's the pawn. Tempai across the way. That is just the south only.
I think that was probably a small error there. The Hatsu dead, you're better off just going for the K10 that late in the hand.
There's another option to do so.
Oh,
Nope, just selling out on it. I believe that Tempai on the right, and it is Ricci Pinfu Dora on 5-8 pin. And Q's kind of in a rough spot because both of those look bad. I actually think the 6 looks better. We'll be waiting on the last 5 so now.
thinking about this con.
Boom.
Decides not to. I think it's fine to con
Well,
there.
Dealer now Tempai waiting on 3 so. There is still one in the wall, even though you have this very awkward 1, 2, 3, 3 wait. And that 2 so, I imagine, is going to get locked in Oliver's hand. I don't think they can get pushed, but what else do you push? You get one turn with the 6 pin, but next turn would be very interesting. That's not what you wanted to see.
Boom.
And that'll deal in. I thought that might happen. Ricci, Pinfu, Dora. No Aura, so it hurts, but it's not the big Mungon hit that Sylvie was looking for. He moved to South 3.
Finally, a little bit of progress here, and Sylvie's going to start out with a hand that could very easily turn into a Pinzu Honitsu. A really nice draw, the 2-pin there, probably going to cut the 3-mon, or the 4-6-0 preemptively.
Yeah, I mean, I'm selling out on the Honitsu here. It feels bad because it's very likely to be Bakuhon, but anytime you're in the Dora suit, there are potentials for upgrades. Across the way, we have a 789 Sanshuku possible Junchan play. On the right, well, it feels like it's going to be Ricci Nomi. It's hard to get any value from this because you're probably going to have to cut the 1-2 Penchan and then also maybe the 9. On the left, a whole bunch of pairs, possible Chi-Toy, possible Toy-Toy. When you have a single Dora, I feel it's probably pushing towards Chi-Toy.
Uncle of the West is going to make dealers search for Honitsu easier, but now with this 4-4